Hello everybody and welcome to Motor Racing in 2025. We kick off the new year with the first of a slew of top quality international endurance races in the next 4 weeks that we'll be covering as part of the Radio Show Limited network of channels, and we kick off as tradition dictates here at the Dubai Autodrome. It's good to have your company for the Michelin 24 Hours of Dubai. 2 rounds of the Michelin Middle East Cup this year here at Dubai. Then next weekend at Yas Marina Circuit for the titchy, tiny 6-hour sprint race, effectively. Already more than 50 cars entered for that race. We are over 60, that's 60 for this series. This weekend, this event this weekend, of which more than half are in GT3. We've brought the team back together again and brought them here to the UAE and to the Dubai Autodrome, which looks an absolute picture at the moment. The voices you will hear throughout the day include, of course, fabulous Phil Anson, who we've just worked out we've known each other for 14 years now, and we're still talking to each other, which is pretty good going, to be honest. Johnny Palmer has made the trip. He wasn't allowed to come back after 2020 when this race was flooded out, but we've assured the authorities that he hasn't been doing a rain dance, although there is cricket going on at DSC next door, so anything could happen. In the pit lane, Joe Bradley and Nick Damon, we'll get to them in a moment. And a first-timer here with us in the booth is our PMAC, Peter Mackay, the man from Perth in Scotland, is, I think, just about coming to terms with the scale of Dubai in the UAE. Good afternoon, as it is to you, and welcome to the Michelin Dubai 24 Hours.
Good afternoon, John. Thank you. I don't think I'll have fully processed what I think of Dubai until I get home in a few days' time. It's an amazing city, amazing place, amazing facility here at the Dubai Autodrome, and a huge packed field of cars, many teams that know the race well, many drivers that know it well, but a brand new tyre, which I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about, with the Michelin tyre for the first time here in the 24H series, and really interesting to get the feedback from the drivers, what they think.
Well, I mentioned Joe Bradley and Nick Damon. It wouldn't be a Dubai 24 Hours without Nick down in the pit lane. He has been here a few times, but he's standing next to a car that is here for the very first time, and it brings the glorious screaming sound of a Judd V10 back of the 5-litre machine. Is next to Nick Damon, and doesn't it look a picture? And so does the car.
Well, exactly. It looks fantastic. Always marvellous to be back in Dubai for this January race, the 20th running of the Dubai 24 Hours. My 12th visit here in 13 years, but we missed a couple, of course. And you can see the Roster LMGT is the car on camera now, the white and the blue car, giving me very strong Maserati vibes, which is always a good thing. This first section of qualifying, it's a mixture of these GTX cars, which are the second fastest, or probably the second fastest group of cars, the GT4 cars and the TCX cars. So there's a kind of quite a big speed difference between the three, so hopefully they'll keep out of each other's way. As per Creventic rules, there'll be 3 sections to this qualifying, a different driver each time. But of course they will have to run on the same tyres and the same fuel. Now, talking about tyres, that's the big change for the Creventic series. We are now the Michelin series by Creventic. They've switched to Michelin, Joe.
Well, everyone knows how excited I get about tyres, and this brand new brand of tyre for the 24H series, the Michelin Pilot Sport. It's offering new challenges up and down the pit lane. doesn't matter what class you're in, getting these Michelins to work on cars that you are familiar with is where the teams are finding the challenge. Not just the drivers, I've got to say, but the engineers as well. And just talking to a few people up and down the pit lane, those challenges, not necessarily getting to qualify well, but last the stint is key to a good race.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a major change. You know, we've had the first time we came here, it was Dunlop, there's Hankook, but now they've made a move which, it has to be said, it seems to be universally popular amongst the paddock and has inspired this entry. And also, interestingly, we keep talking about, shouldn't we talk about this, but the entry for next week's Abu Dhabi race. People are happy with this Michelin, even though, you say, presents a challenge, especially with its much stiffer sidewall.
Yeah, I think when you look at the overall picture of GT sports car racing across the world, the Michelin tyre is a very commonly used tyres, and I think the teams like that. I think they can then cross-fertilise between series in other countries, and I think it's popularised, if that's the word to use, the Creventic series. And I think we're probably going to see a very strong year for the 24 series. We're already back to the numbers pre-COVID, I think. A very, very strong entry area this weekend, and it's a very strong, I think, 33 cars in the GT3 field. That's going to bring us fabulous racing all week.
Well, the next 45 minutes or so is all about GTX, TCR and the GT4s. And with the first 15-minute section well underway, back to the team.
Nick Damon, Joe Bradley in the pit lane. That tyre is a smart tyre, which possibly we can't say about our pit lane team all the time. I'm only kidding, gentlemen. Good to have you back with us and on site. The tyres are all equipped with RFID chips, which came from commercial vehicle tyres, actually, which means we've got the opportunity to have even more data from the provided to us from the tyre manufacturer and supplier this weekend and throughout the Michelin 24-inch series in 2025, which, following this season opener here at Dubai, heads to Abu Dhabi next weekend for that sprint 6 hours, and then into the 5-race European Series, finishing at Barcelona in September. More details about that as we go on. Already lots of questions coming in. Hello to Paul Ayling. If you're on the Twitter, or the X as it's called now, if you've managed to stay on that, we'll be keeping an eye on that throughout this, and it is at RSL_studio, at RSL_studio. Hello to Paul, looking forward to the action and the commentary, he says. Already questions about the tyres coming in, and yes, they are Michelin, but what Michelins are there? Well, that's a good point. They are designated H1 and H2, those are the compounds, and these are tyres that will not be unfamiliar, let me put it that way, to any teams that have been running in IMSA in the last few years. The S8M and the S9M are the customer racing tyres that have been used there. The early chat from the teams that I've spoken to is that they seem to be giving good performance, as you'd expect, and great longevity, which possibly also might expect as well from a Michelin tyre. It is effectively a new start, though, Peter, because all the data from the previous manufacturer, people say, well, it's just a tyre, how much difference can it make? It can make a lot of difference, caster and camber. Now, Michelin helped the teams by putting out a specification for caster, camber and pressures, which you have to stay within those parameters, but even so, that's only part of how the car suspension reacts, is the sidewall and the tyre itself. So there will be, and the big car's on track here since Monday of this week, there will have been some data. We had a 2-day tyre testing in December as well. It was Winward who were quickest then with the AMG. But there will be a certain amount of learning going on even right now.
And the choice of car is very important, because you look at like a team like El Bamber Motorsport, they've run Porsches in the past, they've run Mercedes-AMG, they've got an Aston Martin Vantage this weekend, so it can be the platform that you're working with as well can make a difference, and yeah, it's just getting used to it. But the one thing for sure is there has been plentiful track time for the teams to get up to speed and get used to the tyre and get everything working well. One thing that's just caught my attention in this qualifying session is the 797 Graf Racing Rossa LM GT, because they have put their pro-graded driver, one of their pro-graded drivers in there, Nikita Mazepin, former Formula 1 driver. Now, by my understanding, you've got to put the AM driver in for the first session of qualifying. But I don't, by my reading of the regulations, that hasn't changed, and I don't think there's any exception for GTX. I'm really reassured by Phil Anson shaking his head in the background. But so let's see, the race control, I'm sure, will be on top of that one if necessary.
That's Peter Mackay with me in what is one of our most impressive commentary box in terms of the vista that we have. We're way up in the top of the grandstand on driver's left down the front straight, just beyond the Michelin 24 Hours of Dubai start-finish gantry. So we can see almost down to turn 1. Then we pick them up against the turn 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Down the back straight into turn 10. And at the far side of the circuit, that's Nikita Mazepin driven 797. This is the Rossa car, has gone around. This is the mighty 5-litre Judge V10, and sponsored by Spark, the die-cast model. And then he rejoined in right alongside the 111 IRC Darren Curry driven car. That was just the back end giving away there, and that looked to be a pretty quick snap there for Nikita. Just on the entrance to the S's at turn 4. So actually just about where we could see them out of the window, which is where I was looking at the time that happened. Nikita's half-brother is making big waves in the world of karting, and he will, I am reliably told that he will be in single-seater racing. I think he's only 10 or 11 at the moment, but his career is already being mapped out for him under the watchful eye of Ollie Oakes, who, of course, runs the high-tech team, the former Mazepin team, and also is team manager, team principal at Alpine F1, strongly rumoured to be taking over that team as Renault divest themselves of the F1. So keep an eye open for a next generation, or at least another version of the Mazepin dynasty.
A very good time, though, before that spin from Nikita Mazepin, 2:01.767, a full 1.6 seconds quicker than Gerhard Watzinger in the Lippert Motorsport Lamborghini GTX. Well, meanwhile, the
427, that's the SRS team Zog Rennsport Porsche. That's Gero Birknecht. And that car's come to a halt on the long back straight. This is your first time with us for the Michelin 24 Hours of Dubai. First of all, hang your head if you're an endurance sports car racer. Racing fan, and because this is the 20th running of this august event. Originally, well, I mean, I think we missed the first half dozen, but we've been here, we just worked out we've been here since 2012. And the names of the winners here go back all the way to Dula Motorsport in 2006.
Yeah.
Hubert Bach Motorsport was second, and AC Bratislava, who continued to compete in the championship with Miro Konopka, particularly down through the years. And Dula Motorsport's BMW E46 GTR, what a machine that was. Dieter Questa, who was part of the winning team on the first two runnings of this event in 06 and 07, with a mostly Austrian team, Dieter Questa and Philip Peter. Yes, that Philip Peter, who went on to run Sports Car Series, and Toto Wolff. Yes, that Toto Wolff, running with Red Bull backing, because Toto was an early investor in Red Bull as the red flags come out. And you can't have Dieter Question without Hans-Joachim Stuck. Hans Stuck was in that car as well and took the first podium. The first year we were here, we managed to have Bernd Schneider on 2 steps of the podium for Heiko Motorsport, second and third. So that was 2012 when Khaled Al-Kabazi's Team Abu Dhabi by Black Falcon car won, with Thomas Jäger, the German, Jeroen Bleekemolen from the Netherlands, and the much missed and mourned Sean Edwards was the another driver in that car. Rich history here. So we have got a red flag, which we normally don't do in Creventic racing, because we deal with things with what's called a Code 60. Plenty of other high-profile series have come up with a similar idea and sort of copied along, because they saw how well it worked in this series. Call it a virtual safety car, if you will. Code 60, purple flag with a 60 in the middle and across. Guess what? 60 kilometres an hour. Yeah, absolutely. So you hold your position. But we've red flagged this one, and just to see if we've stopped the clock. Yes, we have, with 5 minutes and 31 seconds to go. So with a fast lap at the moment, just over 2 minutes, you will get an outlap flyer and possibly a second lap when we go back green.
And that's something that will probably be a little bit of a voyage of discovery for us, in what the heat-up process is of the Michelin tyre, how the teams are going to get on top of that one, and when the performance of the tyre will come in. I mean, Nikita Mazepin, he's certainly done his job in terms of extracting the maximum, or extracting the best lap time of that session, but by my understanding, it's not within the rules to put your pro driver in the first session. It's the AM driver who must go in that session. So it's a little bit skewed there, because Gerhard Wotzinger, for example, for Lippert Motorsport, in their Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo, he will, right. He is an AM driver.
Nick Damon can give us some news, because I don't think it's Mazepin in the car. Nick, what can you tell us?
No, it is Mazepin in the car. What I was saying is that Nico Prost is in the car for Ginetta as well. So obviously, unless everyone's making the same mistake, the rules must be different. Well,
we'll wait to hear from Race Control about that. Creventic have a very good app with all the data on, and they send out the updates on that. You watching and potentially listening to the 24-hour series. Early issue for the brand new Rosa, this Rosa LM. There is a road car version of this as well, as of course there has to be for a GT3 machine, and there is a mandated number of cars that have to be completed and sold on the road series. Production cars is the overarching term. However, this is running in a GTX, which is X, you could say, was experimental. You could just say exceptional. It's basically for cars that don't quite fit places. We've seen new versions of cars running this in the past, with BMWs before they were homologated in the past, Peter. And it's basically a catch-all, but what we're looking at here is cars that, roughly speaking, for example, the Lamborghini is a Super Trofeo car. It's not a GT3 car. That sort of thing. The IRC car, that's a tube frame, a space frame car with a General Motors LS3 6.2 engine on. If you think of the Mark cars that we've seen down through the years, it's a similar concept to that, although not from the same company. It basically gives people the opportunity to come and have a race.
That's right, and you could take a GT2 car, for example. There's lots of them out there from Mercedes, from Audi. There's even 1 or 2 Brabham BT62s out there too. The Rosa car, the LMGT, they've built 2 chassis. They've built 001 and 002, so they're off and running. They were both completed in mid-November.
I want to go to Nick in a moment, but from here I can see, Nick, that Rosa car is getting tyres taken off that car. That's not allowed in the session either. So at the moment we've got 2 straight against the new team. Where are you?
I just thought I know those of you who were lucky enough to listen to me about Motorsport, I know we had a long conversation about the 111 racing car and what was it, where it came from. It's the Australian IRC GT machine, and absolutely it does look very much like a new version of that Mark Carr's tubular space frame chassis. It does seem quite a bit longer, so I think they've actually, it's got a kind of semi-bespoke paintwork as it goes. The bodywork is about to get going. Big Australian flag on the roof, but yeah, it's got a kind of a Camaro look about it, hasn't it? Really, but it's not, obviously, because it's a silhouette machine. But yeah, another moving forward on that one. Yeah, I must admit that is a bit surprising they've changed the tyres, because that's not allowed. All they have to do now is fuel it to get the whole set, don't they? Really?
I'll put the same driver out twice.
Again.
Yeah.
Well, that's it, because also Nico now, hang on, the driver about to get in is Roman Rusinov. So if he goes out in the second part of the session, that's also wrong as well. So it's going well so far, really.
As long as the only rule is you've got to put an am in at the start, but after that you can put who you like in. Yeah. That's my understanding.
No, but he can't go out in this session
in the first session.
when Mazepin's already been out.
Exactly so.
But it's, I think they're waiting a few minutes. I think a lot of people have written off this, perhaps writing off this 5-minute session. Do we know who caused the red flag?
Yes, it was the Porsche coming to a halt at the back straight, the SRFS team Rennsport.
Was it the 427?
No.
Because that's just rolled past me. The 427's running, but it has just turned up.
It was pulled into the start of the pit lane on a tow rope, and then I think it fired from there. So maybe a control-alt-delete.
It's a control-alt-delete thing. Let's have a look. They are looking at they've lifted up the bonnet, which is pointless, of course, because there's nothing in the bonnet.
You mean the front?
For a Cayman. And as we know, they actually haven't got any engines. We've looked for the engine on a Boxer and a Cayman many times and can't find it.
Virtual engine.
So they looks like they've got they're tracing down some loose connections. Obviously, I think it must have turned itself off, and then, as you say, was dropped off the truck and went, yeah, it's fine now. And I think the underway. A lot of people aren't bothering with this second 5 minutes, to be honest. They're just using it as extra preparation time. I can see the Ginetta of Nico Prosti's out of the car. Obviously, Mazepin, we know, has got out of the car. I wonder whether they put a new tyre on or whether they've just taken them off and put them back on again, both of which is probably not allowed. Now, it's a brand new tyre on the rear right.
Now, did he puncture them?
Unless they're going to claim force majeure, because you flat when he spun it, that's not any good. So the question is, are they going to end up being, if they have breached regulations, will they be put back to the back of the grid or just the back of the class?
I think they will be put to the back of the GTs.
Right.
So behind the GT4s, I think.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that this GTX, looking at we've seen some times in practice, this Rossa Corsa machine, it's a good couple of seconds a lap faster than the rest of the GTX field.